Zac Gallen has become one of the best pitchers in MLB, but how is he doing so good while at the same time he gets hit harder than most pitchers in baseball? Over the last couple of seasons, we've seen Gallen turn into one of the best pitchers in baseball, making his debut in 2019, but he'd get his first real crack at a full season in 2021, where he would make 23 starts, throwing 121 1/3 innings with a 4.3 ERA, 4.25 FIP, and 1.4 FWAR. Gallen was always a guy that was gonna get his strikeouts. He had a strikeout percentage of about 26.5% this season, but where he really struggled was both with giving up walks about 9.5% of the time, as well as giving up a lot of loud contact, getting hit hard 43% of the time. Now look, strikeouts are great, obviously. It's the best thing that a pitcher can do. No chance of getting a base hit, no chance of runners advancing on a productive out, anything like that, barring something crazy. But just being a pitcher that can only get strikeouts and still struggles with the rest of pitching, giving up walks, hits, home runs, that's like a hitter that doesn't ever get walked, strikes out all the time, can't play defense, and the only hits that they really get are home runs, but they can hit 30+ bombs in a season, which is great, it's flashy, but is that really efficient, and is that actually gonna win you ball games? Comment what you think about all of this below. So Gallen had to make some adjustments here to make sure that he didn't fall into this category of the strikeout only kind of pitcher. And those changes started with his pitch mix. In 2021, Gallen threw his fastball about 53.5% of the time, followed by a changeup at 16.5%, a curveball at 12.5%, and then a slider and cutter both at about 8.5%, with a sinker in his back pocket too. In 2022 though, we saw Gallen start to throw his fastball much less, down to about 48% of the time, with the curveball becoming his new main secondary pitch, about 22% of the time. Then the cutter at about 15%, and the changeup hanging around at about 14%. Now he also basically ditched the slider, throwing it less than 1% of the time now, but by throwing his secondary pitches more often, these actually became way more effective for him. His fastball is definitely his go-to pitch, and even though it sits at only about 93, 94 miles per hour, it's had about a -1 run value per 100 every year of his career so far. But in 2022, with him throwing his other pitches more often, his curveball jumped from 0.3 run values per 100 to -2, his cutter went from -0.2 to -0.6, and his changeup went from 0.4 to -0.5. So all of his other pitches became more effective, and we saw quite a difference in his numbers because of this. In 2022, he made 31 starts, throwing 184 innings with a 2.54 ERA, a 3.05 FIP, and 4.3 FWAR. And his biggest improvements this year were all on his weaknesses from 2021. Gallen really dropped his walk percentage this season, going down to about 6.5%, and being more aggressive with hitters and getting them more on the defensive not only made them start chasing more, about 32% of the time, but their hard hit percentage and exit velo also dropped because of this, down to 36% and 88 miles an hour respectively. So hitters weren't able to sit and look to attack him quite as much, and by not giving up as much hard contact, Gallen was able to drop his average allowed from 221 down to 186, and his home run percentage went from 3.1 in 2021 down to 2.1. So now you have a pitcher that's already proven he can get strikeouts, but now he's not walking guys and he's making them have to hit this stuff, and by mixing up his pitches even more, it's hard for these guys to really get a beat on him and start to square him up. Now seeing this kind of success making these adjustments, you would think that your natural instinct would tell you to double down on those, right? And comment what you would do if you were in his position, because that's exactly what Gallen has done. And as we get into it, make sure you drop a like on this video, let me know you're enjoying it so far, you got anything out of this, or that you're excited to get into Gallen's 2023 season. Gallen has definitely doubled down on the changes that he made last season, especially with the pitch mix. He's throwing his fastball even less, now just under 43% of the time, and the curveball even more, just over 27% of the time. This year though, the curveball has been less effective, with guys being able to see it a bit more often, down from the -2 run values per 100 last year to -0.1 so far. but the changeup has been an absolute killer early on, going from -0.5 last year down to -2.7. And leaning into these adjustments has seen him improve on some of those things he already improved on last year, with his walk rate now going down to 5%, his home run percentage dropping down to 0.8%, and his strikeout rate is also up at the same time now at a career high 29.9%. So not only is he attacking hitters even more, but by mixing up his pitches even more, he's giving up way less home runs because guys are barreling the ball way less against him, they're whiffing way more, and they're hitting him harder than they ever have. What? His hard hit percentage of 45.5% is in the 18th percentile, and his exit velo just under 91 miles per hour is in the 16th percentile, and both of these are career worsts. But the crazy thing about this is that Gallen might be having his best season yet. In 10 starts so far, he's pitched 61 innings with a 2.95 ERA, a 2.0 FIP, and 2.6 FWAR already. So how is he still putting up numbers as good, if not better than last year, when he finished 5th in Cy Young voting, while getting hit harder than most pitchers in MLB? Gallen's secret hasn't been how he's been getting hit, but where. And where he's been getting hit about half of the time so far has been to the middle of the field. So even if somebody is really driving a ball against him, to get it out, they have to hit it out of the deepest part of the ballpark. Hitters are averaging a 91 mile per hour exit velo at an 18-degree launch angle off of his fastball so far, which would be pretty ideal to get some slugging, but they're only slugging 298 against him with 1 home run. And that's because even if they are hitting those out to center field, they gotta hit it 410 feet to get it over that center field wall, let alone the speedsters that they have in the outfield chasing down those fly balls. But that's the only pitch that hitters have really been able to lift against him. His curveball has an average launch angle of 6 degrees, his cutter 9 degrees, and his changeup 3. So even if you are hitting those hard, you're probably just gonna hit it into the ground. So your best bet to do damage as a hitter is to try to lift one of these fastballs, but that means you have to get out in front of it to avoid hitting it to that center field wall, which is pretty tough to do even though it's only 93, 94, not really high velocity. It is high spin, so it stays up longer than you think it would. But then you start cheating to get out in front of that fastball, and now he's mixing his pitches so much, he's gonna make you look stupid on a curve or a changeup, and some people still say that hitting a baseball is easy. Alright, this is all why baseball is such a game of adjustments. And the funny thing is that sometimes you may make an adjustment expecting one thing to happen, and something completely different ends up happening instead. But even if the adjustments you make don't get you the results you thought you were gonna get, sometimes they might actually get you even better results in a completely different way than you thought would have ever happened. Gallen threw a lot of fastballs, he walked too many guys, and he got hit hard way too often. So he started throwing more off speed, going at hitters more, got hit hard way less because of this, and had his best season. So he throws even more off speed, goes at hitters even more, but then is getting hit harder than he ever has in his career and is having an even better season. Baseball can be wild sometimes, so let me know what you think about all this and any predictions that you have for the rest of Gallen's season. Pitching can just be crazy like this sometimes, and Gallen is just another example of how sometimes a really small adjustment can make a big difference for a pitcher. And the Mets rotation needs to make a very similar small adjustment here to get themselves and the Mets back on track. The Mets have won 5 in a row since I made the video, so to watch me eat my words about the Mets, check out this video next. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the page. Not only helps us out, but you get more baseball content like this when we drop a new video every Wednesday and Sunday. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day. I'll see you later.